Welcome to Center Clueless, the podcast takes a day-by-day approach to politics. My name is Billy Ray Brewton.
I'm Erik Surwill.
And that song that you just heard, I just realized, really sets you up for like an African-themed, like there's a lot of bongos in it. Like
Sure.
It really sets you up for a very specific type of experience.
Right. I was kind of like wondering, could we break it down into like a good dance song? Like, drop in like a 4x4 beat, start, the house club starting.
It sounds like something very culturally inappropriate that in like a 1960s movie, some explorer would like first discover an African country. And then this would be the song that the local tribes are playing around the campfire.
The bongo portion, at least. For me, honestly, I think you kind of nailed sort of the old school, like news intro music pretty well. That there's a lot of music like that in the 70s and 80s, introing to news stories and other stuff locally like that.
To me, it represents colonialism. No kidding.
You know what's messed up about that whole conversation is sometimes when people will semi-seriously, or at least mostly seriously, throw that conversation around, the colonialism conversation, which is an absolutely legitimate conversation on some level. At a certain point, you got to be like, yeah, you got conquered. What are you going to do about it? Like, I mean, it's so stupid. Why are we talking about this? You know what I mean? Why do we talk about it? It makes me look. It's something that obviously I want my daughter to understand and know about, to understand how that worked, especially in Africa, right? Because there was some terrible shit that went on there, right? That maybe even goes on there to this day. But God, in the United States, I'm not like colonizing my friends of color. You know what I'm saying? It's just whatever. Okay, but and then also, hey, just so you know, just to get off that terrible conversation, we were battening down the hatches for the first tropical storm in California in 84 years. And let me let you know, it jogged right, so it jogged east at the last minute, and it's actually hammering Vegas right now, although it's raining here. But we, all of my neighbors, all of us yesterday, everybody was battening down the hatches. You couldn't get drop cloths at Home Depot, nothing. It's crazy.
What I heard is with Hurricane Hillary hitting, everybody needs to make sure that their pets are secure. So you should make sure to lock them up. Lock them up. Lock them up.
Oh, man. Just crowbarring that in. You know what's funny is I want to see the subtle difference in your jokes when you eventually become a father. Will you actually go full dad? Because that was pretty much borderline, if not well within the boundaries of dad jokes.
Most of my jokes are dad jokes. Most of my jokes are dad jokes.
It's going to get worse. It's going to get so bad.
Well, it's actually a rather pivotal week in politics, the last week or so. And if you're like most of us, you've been Ray Charles in it with Georgia on your mind. And but first, today I thought let's kick it off in a little bit of a different way, because we're going to just kick right off the gate with Cancel Corner. That's right, Cancel Corner, where we talk about some folks who are attempting to cancel in major or minor ways. And I would argue that both of the folks that I'm going to bring up today, it's a very minor way. It's not like this is some like 5 years ago. I feel like both of them would have already been like destroyed. But now
I haven't heard these yet, so let's hear it.
Now that we're starting to see. So the first one. So Bradley Cooper has a new movie coming out in December that he wrote, directed, and stars in called Maestro, about the film composer Leonard Bernstein.
Yes,
and Bradley Cooper, of course, plays Leonard Bernstein. And there was a trailer that came out, and then almost instantly people just started slamming the movie and him because of what they call Jew-face. Because he is wearing a prosthetic nose and obviously has made himself up to look less like Bradley Cooper and more like Leonard Bernstein. And this is evidently some horrible thing that he's done. All of these people and groups are coming out and saying that it was, just going to town on it. Then, of course, Leonard Bernstein's family, his children, come out and say, leave Bradley Cooper alone.
Right.
He involved us in every step of this process. Every decision that was made, he consulted with us. Like our father would have been okay with this, but like just the whole shebang. But of
Right.
course, then it turns into, well, they don't speak for all Jewish people, and I'm like,
Yeah, but they speak for Bernstein, who's being depicted in the movie, and Bernstein was more than a sum of his identity or his identitarian parts. How about that? It's just okay. So I didn't know you were. So just so everybody knows, I didn't know what these ones were. This is actually, it is very small, and thank God it is. It's absolutely ridiculous, especially because people knew Bernstein via his big nose. Like, I mean, that was a big part of his
yeah,
look. So
yeah.
if you're gonna look, if I'm gonna play a Klingon, okay. And by the way, yes, I'm comparing wearing Klingon makeup to putting a Jewish nose on. I'm going to put on stuff that makes me look like a Klingon. If I'm going to play Bernstein and my skin's naturally white color, I'm just going to do a nose change. Okay, this isn't black. This first off, because I've heard it compared to this. This isn't wearing black skin, right? Like this isn't wearing blackface. It's ridiculous. And by the way, to compare the two is ridiculous because part of why blackface is so reviled is because you don't just wear blackface, you then, at least at the time, got into the tropes of what African Americans were supposed to look like when they talked. He's doing an individual. It's different from depicting a culture or a race of people. It's and I don't know. I mean, this is what you get with your brain on identitarianism. This is what you get with your brain on critical theory. Okay, it's just garbage.
Well, I just keep waiting because now that this is sort of out in the air, there's a movie coming out very soon called Golda, which is about Golda Meir. And
Right.
Golda Meir is played by the non-Jewish Helen Mirren. And so, I mean, I will say this, like that to me, I can at least understand, right? If you're a Jewish person, Golda Meir is such a huge figure and is such an iconic figure in Jewish history. Like I could understand you maybe being upset that they cast someone who is not Jewish to play Golda Meir. I can maybe understand that. I think it's ridiculous personally. I think actors should be able to act, but I
Right.
can at least understand it to a degree. And I'm sure we're going to get a bunch of BS about it too. But let me preface this by saying, look, if you are a Jewish person who is legitimately hurt by the fact that people are playing your people who are not Jewish, like I don't want to just completely shit all over your feelings and say that you don't have a right to feel that way.
Yeah.
But you also, I mean,
No.
you also to a
I'm shit.
degree.
I just want to be clear. I'm shitting all over them. Keep going. Sorry.
No, I'm not going to shit over the feelings. I'm just going to say you have to. I mean, like, come on. I
Well,
really
I mean,
that's
so wait.
that's
So
the
what?
only that's what's sad is like all of this like discourse and it all boils down to just like, come on.
Really? So by the way, would it have been better if the actor was Jewish? Would they have been okay with him wearing a prosthetic nose? Like, let's say the actor had been Jewish, but still didn't have Bernstein's, honker, right?
Yeah,
Would people have been okay with that?
good question. I don't know.
Look, Salma Hayek played Frida, right? And no
Mhm.
one got pissed that she did the unibrow. Is it because she was a Mexican American woman? I think
Probably so. Yeah,
but get the fuck out of here.
yeah,
Do you see you see why
yeah,
that right there exposes it? It
yeah.
if it's about him putting on Jew face, then you wouldn't like anybody doing it. You wouldn't like a Jewish. In fact, you might be angrier at a Jewish actor for sort of amplifying a Jewish trope about a big nose. I just I think it's the same thing. Ain't
I would
nobody
look
talk.
at it.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I would look at it this way. I would look at it like which clearly, but it's like Bradley Cooper clearly is obsessed with Leonard Bernstein. Has always wanted to do this film. He's going to
Right.
expose a whole new generation of audiences to Leonard Bernstein and to the amazing stuff that Leonard Bernstein did. And I think that's a positive, right? I think that's a good across the board. You're going to expose more people to Leonard Bernstein. And he's got a big nose. Okay, at what point? Because we all know that some stereotypes occasionally are true. They just are. Like, look, I am sure that if you did a poll, a majority of Jewish people do not have big honkers. We understand that. Some do. And Bernstein did. I am sure that there, somewhere out there in the diaspora of civilization, there is at least one black person who enjoys fried chicken. I'm just
Watermelon,
putting
yeah,
that out there.
sure.
Like, I understand that it's not the majority, and that is a trope from years ago, and it can be used in this horrible racist context.
Right.
But there are some black people who like fried chicken.
Yo,
And
yo,
so
I mean, there are whole groups of Southern black cultures that are black that like an entire line of food, which includes fried chicken, which includes, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with
no.
acknowledging that in a non mocking way, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people will use these tropes to mock people.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
to be fair, all of the virulently anti-Jewish comics you see online feature that like a comically big nose. So I can
Yeah.
understand some of the sensitivity around it. But in this case specifically, he's trying to look more like look more like I don't know. I can't even get it. Honestly, I can't even get it up for it. It's just it's so stupid and ridiculous, and who cares?
Well,
And especially in a world where so much else could be discussed and managed, we're going to talk about this bullshit. This is I think this is people scoring points. I think this is social warriors with nothing better to do, looking to attack yet some other guy. Who knows? It's really weird. Whatever.
well, moving on from that to an even more minor extreme. This was something, but I did see it pick up a mild amount of steam on Twitter or whatever the fuck it's called. And that is almost immediately after this, you started seeing people post these old images of Judy Garland from when she was a child and was in blackface
Blackface, yeah.
and doing a minstrel performance. And there were posts like, I had never seen this before. Never going to think of Judy Garland the same way again. And like
Right.
things like that. And I'm like, okay, let's be clear. This woman has been dead for what, 50 years? She is historically and notoriously known for having abusive parents and an abusive studio system that
Right.
forced her into pretty much every role she took. So I think we can say with some degree of authority that she was probably pushed into doing that performance. That said, at the time, I'm sure she didn't think there was anything wrong with it because everybody was doing it. So it wasn't like it was. I get that now we want to be all morally superior and be like, oh, but it's like this is back in the fucking 30s. Like
Right.
things were very different back then. Put it into context, and like, are you really trying to cancel Judy Garland? I mean, obviously not because it didn't pick up a lot of steam, but it was up there for a little while, and it really pissed me off because it's like, yes, we know blackface is bad. We are all aware of that. No one, we know this. We're aware. This was from the fucking 30s.
Right. Right. And
Give me a break.
What's funny is I saw someone try to gain points on this by showing her doing it when she was either 16 or 17, right? Saying, see, here she is older. She was still under the control of her parents and the studio system at that point. And still,
And even if she wasn't.
And by the way, my understanding, maybe I'm wrong on this. I don't think so. My understanding is that she wasn't happy about this later in life and was very, was actually an early arriver, not only to the conversations about race and how that blackface was not good, but also conversations about gays.
Yeah.
She's someone who was accepting at a time when it was revolutionary to be accepting. And so, if you're going to go ahead and play the game, give her credit where credit's due. Give her credit where credit's due. This is again, I think this is, what's kind of good about this. I'll tell you what's good about this. It's going to show you the lengths to which some people are having to reach to find outrage. Hopefully, we're coming to what would be, I would hope, is near the end of the outrage cycle over stuff like this, because it's not helping anything. What is to be gained from the canceling of Judy Garland, as you essentially, as you said. And why would you try? So the question is, who's the first? What I would love to know on this one, who's the first person to post this and why? I'm starting to think that a lot of these are being led by trolls, I would assert. People that don't actually, like, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that this was some asshole on Twitter or
I think it was Twitter.
Twitter or TikTok who was just trying to light up the douchebags, right? The people that decided to pick this football up and run with it. And I think that I'm starting to notice around the edges a lot of that going on, right? You see that going on Reddit all the time. In other words, you'll go into more controversial subs in Reddit, and there are people posting stuff that's just too perfect, right? It's like perfect rage bait, and it probably is. It probably is rage bait. And the fact is, you see that a good example of where rage bait is obvious and where it lives is in food, Instagram, where people will post terrible recipes just to piss people off, just for engagement. I think this is similar to that. This is similar to the rage bait you see on food Instagram. This is just a much more serious subject. And it's kind of, whatever.
Well, now we're going to touch base on a few cancel corner subjects who have also been in the news. So people were up in arms when they saw Kevin Spacey out having a normal dinner with Elton John and his husband, David Furnish. But what's so funny is everybody I saw post about this is so brutally ignorant because they're posting about it without even doing the research to know they testified in his fucking trial. You're acting like this is some huge thing. Like, they testified in his defense because the whole thing was supposed to have happened at their party. So clearly they believe Kevin Spacey. Clearly they're friends. And, like or hate Kevin Spacey, we already had that conversation on this podcast. He is allowed to live his life now.
Yeah, I mean, this also is, though, a rejuvenation tour. He's absolutely going on a rejuvenation tour. I'm going to assert to you that what we're going to see now is him having high-profile lunches with people who are uncanceled, well-respected, and very famous, much like this. And what's funny is when we talked about this initially, or at least not initially, but the last time we talked about this was when he won his court case. When he won his court case, you were saying that you didn't think he was going to be able to get back to the heights he was before. Maybe
and I
not.
Still don't. Yeah,
I think he's going to re-enter society and the movie industry on a small level. I think he is. He's probably, and now to be fair, maybe he becomes a complete crazy person at this point. Now that he's again got away with it or whatever, but I feel like this was a planned move on his part to do it so public.
I think his PR team is in full swing, right? They're in full swing trying to figure out how they're going to get him back, right?
Right.
And
$1 million paydays, that's what they're looking for.
And so moving on from that, we're going to move over to our buddy Shia LaBeouf, who's been canceled in the past, who just announced is going to be starring in David Mamet's new play, which is going to be premiering in Los Angeles very soon. Another case of where people just cannot seem to stand that this human being is getting work and still doing things.
Why do we hate him, by the way? I don't. So I've heard the mimetic stories for years. Why is it that he's been canceled?
It was his ex-girlfriend, FKA Twigs, or something. It was like he was accused of being very abusive to her. I don't think he denied it. But the thing is like, we've had this conversation before. If someone legitimately goes and tries to get help for something and tries to do we not give them that grace, right? Like if someone does something wrong, they've acknowledged that they've done something wrong. They seek treatment, they seek help for it. They just don't get to work anymore. They don't get to practice their craft. And
I know he gets trolled a lot. See, the thing is, all I saw were for years, like when he would try to do stuff, like because he tried to do a lot of stuff like live streaming stuff, and the trolls would always show up to yank his chain at his live streaming events or where he was doing various things. It looked like he was sort of pushing out into different alternate medias, which are very difficult to that whole thing is very difficult to do, especially when a Hollywood star tries to step into that world, right? They generally get trolled. And so I kind of didn't know much about this, but it's so ridiculous. Yeah, like you said, if he sought help, then that means he knows what he was doing was inappropriate. He didn't try to hide it over the years, right? I don't know.
No,
Okay, well,
I think he was. I think at first, I don't think he has owned up to everything that happened. Right? He owned up to a certain amount of it. He was like, "Well, these things definitely happened. These things definitely didn't happen." But he owned up to some, what we would call cancelable shit. And
do you like him? Do you like his acting?
I do like him as an actor. I've always liked him as an actor. I think he's obviously got a lot of demons, a lot of dark shit. A part of this too is that it happened at the same time they started revealing that some of the things that he talked about in that film he did, Honey Boy, which was that autobiographical film of his, was made up. Like people then started realizing that he had made up some of his childhood trauma, and so I think that started rubbing people the wrong way too. Regardless, like, I think he's a talented actor. I'll watch him in other stuff. Like, let's let's give him a second chance. If he fucks up again, okay. Like, then we can have that discussion. But like,
right.
So moving on to another topic is our buddy Woody Allen. Just announced today that the world premiere of his final film has sold out almost instantly at the Venice Film Festival. So it just completely sold out. People are just shocked that Woody Allen would, and I'm like, Europe is just different, y'all.
Well,
Europe is different.
How old was the young woman he dallied with? Was she 14?
Sun Yi.
No, not Sun Yi. I'm talking about Woody Allen. Dude, did I just burn the deal? I did burn the deal, not Woody Allen. Excuse me. I was thinking of the other guy. So is this Sun Yi is the only one then with Woody Allen, right?
Well, no. Remember, they accused him of doing something inappropriate with Dylan. That was the whole thing. Is that the other child that he was accused of that, and then it became this whole like he said she said thing of like, well, do you believe Woody Allen or do you believe this child? A lot of people think that Mia Farrow probably coached the child. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't have a definitive answer on it. I'm not going to pretend like I do. It's complicated.
Right.
But people just got to understand Europe is different. Like, they don't view those things the same way we do. Like, age of consent is very different over there.
Right. I was about to make that point. And merge two directions together. But
you also don't hear about a lot of people, let's say in France, getting canceled. Yeah, they don't do a lot of canceling there like that.
I mean, the Woody Allen thing. So you actually were the one that pointed something out to me. You said that you didn't think that Woody Allen was very involved in the raising of Sun Yi, right?
Correct.
And if you think about it, I'm not defending.
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. That's whatsoever. Not using that as an excuse.
But I mean, it does make it less gross. Like if he raised her as his own daughter, right?
Yeah,
and then just flipped it at 18 over to what it is now. That I would assert, and in my opinion, that exposes some deep mess for him. In this case, it just looks like she was someone that was hanging out there, right? And when she turned 18, he walked over to her. And I think Mia Farrow is she's not a clean player in this, right? She's not. And I don't actually trust Mia Farrow. And as we discussed before, the fact that her son is so obviously not Woody's son, right?
Yeah.
It just looks like a mess. You know what that looks like? It looks like a big Hollywood mess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like.
Yeah.
And
what drives me crazy about this whole thing is that people are all up in arms about Woody Allen and Mia Farrow. Like, no one seems to give a shit what Sun Yi thinks. Like, she's 52 years old now. She's a grown ass woman. And people don't give a shit what she thinks. Like, she's out there telling people what happened. Like,
wait, she's 50. How long has he been with her then? 30 years?
Since like the 80s. Yeah.
I'm not like doing the work and I've forgotten about it. Oh my God.
But that's part of it, right? It's like they've been together for fucking like 30 something years. Clearly this is a relationship, whether you think it's skeevy or not. Like, clearly this is a relationship that lasted. Clearly, this is a relationship that like they both wanted to be in for 30 something years. Like, I'm not saying it's not creepy. I'm not saying it's not skeevy. I'm not saying it's not any of those things. It very much is. But like, I don't know. I'm just like, why don't we just let her have the final word on it, right? She's the one who fucking went through this. Like, why doesn't
Yeah.
she just get the final word? And I don't know about the Dylan shit.
That's actually a great point. If you think about it, at what point do we allow Sun-Yi to have the agency to choose this relationship? Would it have been 20? Never. Yeah. It's probably never for a lot of people because the previous relationship he held with her. But if the previous relationship only existed in name, then really it's about older men, younger women, which a lot of people like to make a lot of hay out of anyway.
Yeah. It's like, he said this is his final film. I think he's 87 for God's sakes. His career in the States is ruined. Like, he's never going to get any kind of like substantive release of anything over here. And so he's doing it in the UK, or in Europe. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I'm not excited to see it, but then I'm not a particularly big Woody Allen fan.
You don't like Woody Allen, right?
I've liked some of his films, but he's not somebody that gets me excited as a filmmaker. I find his films to be all one note to a degree, and right. But people just don't like that his stuff is selling, and it's like, well, it's Europe, honey. It's Europe. Things are different over there. Finally, in the cancel corner segment, and this is definitely old cancel corner. I just wanted to discuss it because I thought it was interesting. I watched this new documentary on Netflix called Depp v. Heard. And it is a 3-part documentary series about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. It's actually really interesting. Yeah. It's actually a very simple structure. It basically puts their testimonies side by side.
Yeah.
But then also goes deep into like the social media hysteria that kind of went along with the trial. So you hear from a lot of these like YouTubers and a lot of these vloggers over the course of the trial, covering it, commenting on the trial. It was actually a way more fascinating than I expected it to be, and less exploitative than I thought it was going to be too. That said, people are having a field day because they're like, oh, well, this paints Amber Heard to look like the bad guy, and this paints Johnny Depp to look like the good guy. It makes her look crazy, blah, blah, blah. Maybe she is. I'm sorry. I'm like, I keep hearing that, but I'm also like, I watched all of this testimony when the trial was going on. I was one of those people who was kind of glued to it. I wanted to see everything that was said because it was also just an entertaining trial. Like the lawyers were entertaining, everybody was entertaining. And then I watched this documentary and I'm like, I think I've just come to the point that I think she's fucking crazy. I'm sorry. I know that's a sore word for people, so maybe I won't use the word crazy, but like, it's clear to me. It is clear to me that I'm not saying that he wasn't abusive. I'm not saying that he didn't do anything wrong, but it is clear to me that she was trying on multiple occasions to set him up.
Yeah. No,
I mean, so like obvious that that's what she was doing.
Right. She was like, instead of engaging in, again, so as an example, the video, the most, I would assert the most famous information about that couple was the video where he's obviously drunk and she's egging him on.
Yeah.
And anybody that's been in a relationship as a man who's, and you're, let's say, angry and losing it. Anybody that's been in a relationship with a toxic woman like that and hears that voice immediately knows that they're there trying to dig at that guy. He was completely out of control at the time and inappropriately drunk, I would assert. Drunk at a time that would indicate to me that you got a fucking problem. But she was looking to dig a hole with him. And it's just like, here's the thing. I think it all ended up the exact way it should. She's not canceled. She could still get work. He's not canceled. He can get work. And what it looks like is two crazy people who are in a relationship. That's actually, I would assert, the general feeling about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. That being said, she could have come out of this looking a lot better if she had just been a lot nicer about it versus what she did do. And it's not her responsibility to be the only good one. But pointing at Johnny Depp as an excuse for your behavior, I think is where this falls apart. If you're the actual victim, you don't have to point at Johnny Depp to justify your behavior. It would be obvious that you were the one that was just trying to keep it together, trying to be, you know, and I think someone else that I talked to about this said they're just two fucked up people. Why do we care about this? We care about it because Johnny Depp was canceled at one point over this. No longer, but he was.
I would say no longer. I think he's still canceled to a degree. I don't think he's fully out of it yet. Like I think he will be. I just don't think it's happened yet. I think people are still
what would have you do that? Would it be another blockbuster? Would it be?
It would to see him be cast in something with a studio, something with some actual push behind it, and I haven't seen that yet.
Wait, what was the movie he just did where he's all made up and it?
But that was a European production. So like that's 100%.
What was the name of that movie?
Help
me. I saw the movie.
I don't even remember. It's a name. It's the guy's name because it premiered in Cannes.
Right.
It premiered in Cannes.
It was about Whitey Bulger, right?
Oh no! That was several years ago.
That was years ago. That was before he was canceled.
Oh yeah, that was Black Mass. That was before he was canceled.
Was Black Mass before he was canceled? When he was canceled? When was he canceled? What year was Depp canceled?
It was. It would have been right when he was doing those Fantastic Beast films because he got kicked out of those.
Right.
I don't know the exact year.
God,
but
that's so crazy.
He got kicked out of those. But yeah, he hasn't done anything substantive since then. And I think he will. Like, I think he will, but I don't think it's happened yet. Amber Heard, look, I mean, I don't know. And in fairness, like, I do think the documentary, if it leans one way, it does lean towards Depp a little bit. But at a certain point, if that's the truth of it, how can you not lean towards him, right? Like,
right.
If you're presenting the evidence as it is and it leans the majority of people towards one way, that's not your fault necessarily. That's just what happened. And so, I found it very amusing. And boy, this has been a action-packed, super stacked cancel corner this week.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let's
public shaming. There's been the public shaming episode. All right.
Yeah. So let's just kind of move out of the cancel corner area and go into a conversation about a group of individuals who will never be canceled. Our beloved Republican nominees for President of the United States and the debate that is coming up on Wednesday, the first debate. So this is the first time we're going to see these folks on stage. So let me just run through who has qualified for the debate so far. Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
My hate fuck, Vivek Ramaswamy. Tim Scott. Nikki Haley. Doug Burgum. And Mike Pence. Chris Christie. And Donald Trump, obviously, but we don't know that Donald Trump is going to be there. Probably won't be. It looks like he is foregoing the debate to do a sit-down interview with Tucker Carlson instead. And so here's the thing. I had a feeling this was going to happen. And this doesn't look great for Chris Christie, right? Because Chris Christie's been out there for the last 2 months being like, oh, Trump will show up. Trump will be there. I guarantee you he will be there. He's not going to allow... And I've been the whole time like, you shouldn't be saying that, dude, because I promise you, he might just not show up just to fuck you. And
you don't think it fucks Trump not showing up?
We'll see, right? I mean, that's going to be the proof's in the pudding. We'll see after these debates and see what the poll numbers look like about whether or not it hurts him or not. I don't think it helps him. I don't think there's any situation where you can say that Trump skipping the debate helps him. That said, I don't know that being in the debate helps him either. So he's kind of in a non-win situation. If he shows up at the debate...
he's in a no-win situation.
Yeah,
right, sure.
If he shows up at the debate, he's going to get creamed. He's absolutely going to get creamed. If he doesn't show up at the debate, he's not going to get creamed by the people on the debate stage, but he's going to get creamed by the media and by other people who are going to be like, you're a coward, you didn't show up. And so I don't know how he wins. I don't want him to win, so I don't care. Go fuck yourself, dude. But this is going to be, for the rest of the candidates, make or break.
Yeah,
This is
by the way, last week Trump did the whole video where he's like, "We should align behind." He did the "everybody should drop out" speech last week.
I know.
I think in response to this, and that's what I think is. So I think he's actually afraid. By the way,
Oh, I think he's absolutely afraid. I think he absolutely knows he's going to get crushed if he goes to that debate. And yeah, he wants people to back out, and to some degree, I kind of understand. Some of these people ain't got a shot in hell.
sure,
But they're all hanging around for this first debate. They want to see if their poll numbers increase after the debates, and that's perfectly valid. And then some of them will drop before the first primary. I would say a few will drop because the debates won't give them the momentum they need.
right,
And the ones that don't and that are hanging on after that first primary, they'll be gone. And so they're going to drop out the way people normally drop out of these races.
right.
Like, there is a process. Like, I get Trump wants everybody gone, but there is a process, and it will weed people out as it normally does.
Well, I mean, so Christie, Scott, DeSantis, Rama Flim Flam, your hate fuck. That's about it. That to me, those are the real guys now. Those four.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know that anybody else should even be there.
I don't know that they should either, but they're going to be. Look, it's the way it goes. They're going to try to get their 15 minutes on the debate stage, and they're going to try to say something that will get them some clickbait that might give their poll numbers a boost, or they're trying to sell something entirely different from what they're up there on that stage for, and they're just trying to get some name recognition.
Vivek Ramaswamy saying that we should just let China invade Taiwan. It's like, what are you?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, fine.
That's a hot take, Vivek.
And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost comical. And then the video of him rapping also. Have you seen that?
Oh my God. I watched that like 5 times in a row because at one part I'm like, oh God, like I so want to look at this and be like, cool, dude, you crushed it. But all I can look at is like some poorly coordinated guy like doing an Eminem's. I'm just like, oh, dude, you're so misguided.
Yeah, it's like a bad Eminem.
It's so misguided.
Like I
and let's not talk about the cultural appropriation of taking rap from our white rappers.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop. I don't know. I kind of think I think that we're in the same spot that we were at the last, we're at the same spot as we were in 2016, except for the fact that Trump's not there, 1 and 2, except for the fact that I don't know, man. It's such a weird election time because Trump should be in there. I would assert to you that if Trump's serious about being president, he would want to be there. He would want to go to these debates and crush these people one by one. Just get up there and do what he did in 2016. Because in 2016, it was just as large a field. It was just as broad a field. And he's not going to be there. And when he was there in 2016, he was able to, he knocked Jeb out right away. Like he took scalps in 2016 during this process.
Well, because no one knew what to expect. Like no one was aware. He was an unknown quantity then, and that's the issue. Is he's not unknown anymore. Like people know how to go against his bullshit now to some degree. Like
how does Christie show up? Do you think on
this? Good question. I'll say this, and I'll answer that question as I go into this because I do feel like this hurts one person more than anybody else, and it's not Christie, it's Mike Pence because Trump's not there.
I didn't even say his name.
So Mike Pence is going to get the brunt of all of the like January 6th stuff, of all of the like
he was able to play hero with that, right?
Yeah, and he's going to have to answer for a lot of that shit now because Trump's not there to do it. And so I see Christie is going to be coming in doing exactly what he's been doing, right? He is still going to go at Trump every second that he gets. He's going to take his time and go after Trump. I think he's going to go after Pence as well to some degree. And I think you're going to see Christie being like loud. You're going to see him being bullyish because that's something he does really well in debates and to other candidates. You're going to see that part of him come out. And I think you're going to see a guy who actually has who is going to, I think him above all of these other candidates is actually going to talk policy.
Right. Right.
I think the two candidates that benefit most from this debate are Christie and Ramaswamy.
Really,
And
Ramaswamy.
I do,
Really.
because I think, like I've always said, he's young, he's good looking, he's a different face for the Republican Party. He is super MAGA. It's like, so anybody who doesn't want to go Trump but is still super MAGA, he's a good option for them, especially if they're younger. I think the two people that this hurts are DeSantis and Pence. I think Pence because DeSantis's campaign's been tanking for a while now, and I think this is just the final death nail in that coffin. He's not charismatic enough to excel in that debate against these other players. And especially when you got someone like Chris Christie on stage, who is going to be going after Trump, but is also going to be going after the number 2 guy, which is Ron DeSantis. And
right.
and then
he's
Pence,
I think Christie's going to be. To be fair, I think Christie's going to be possibly the Ramaswamy killer in this one as well.
And he might be, because I think Christie, he's just, he's really good at making you feel very small on a debate stage.
Right. And Vivek and DeSantis and Trump himself, although Trump wasn't there, but Trump will be attacked by Christie based on their insanity, right? And Christie, I assert to you that Christie's going to go in and he's going to play the rational game. He's going to go in there to be the adult in the room, and that's how he's going to try to set himself apart from the rest of these fucking boobs. That's the game. And to be fair, because that's the game Christie's been playing, is that he's the honest Republican that you would actually want to be president right now. Tim Scott was actually another man that had sort of taken that position, but his defense of Trump and his ridiculous comments about the Georgia case have completely sundered him from that sphere. You don't get to look. That Georgia prosecutor isn't just going after Trump. She's going after a lot of people. This is the 11th RICO prosecution during her tenure, and she uses it to great effect. This is not the problem for Trump. Is this woman knows what she's doing? She's good at her job, and she's a law and order DA.
Yeah. Well, and we'll get in, and we'll get it. Hold on, let's see. I gotta take a note now. It just may be something to discuss in our next topic.
Sure.
So I've got to take that note. But yeah. Oh God, there was dead air because I was writing notes.
How dare you do? No, I mean, I think that Tim Scott should have thought before he talked. Okay, because we're not. This is not someone trying to make their bones on Trump. This is someone who has a well-oiled machine that's already been grinding through. Like she's actually prosecuting a couple of rappers there based on one of them's, and it's a RICO case based on during his songs. Like, and it's funny because there's another organization I listen to, which is Fire, right? And they are mad at her because she's prosecuting a rapper using the lyrics in some of his songs, and so she's actually using that Georgia has one of the most expansive RICO. It's one of the most expansive RICO laws in the country, and she's using it, and. Good luck. Tim Scott is a moron for not seeing that, for not understanding that, for not giving her credit, and for defending Trump. It's ridiculous.
Also, it does appear that Asa Hutchinson has now joined the debate. He has found enough support to join the debate. So good for you, Asa Hutchinson. I'm interested in this. I'm actually really excited about the debate, because this is our first look at what it's going to be for the next few months. Like, we're going to know from this debate who's going to drop out, probably when they're going to drop out. We're going to know, we're just going to start figuring things out. And I know Trump thinks that it's already figured out and that he should get the nomination, but, a lot of other people would disagree. A lot of other folks would disagree. Well, you know what? We're going to keep going on the Trump train, but we're going to take a break first, and then we're going to come back and get into those nasty Georgia indictments. So stick around after a brief word from our sponsor, and we will be right back. We are back with more Clueless nonsense. And so, as always, we save the orangest for last. And that, of course, is our good buddy, Donald John Trump, who has been slammed with what I would say, regardless of what Chris Christie says, I would call these maybe the most damning indictments yet, only because A, the case seems so comprehensive, but also he can't pardon himself from these.
Right. He can't pardon himself.
He can't pardon himself from this. So, like, he can pardon himself from some of these others. He cannot pardon himself from these indictments. Even if he is president of the United States, he can still be charged.
Right. Right. I also think that the other thing that's very important here is that the prosecutor, Fani Willis, made her bones using Georgia's RICO statute. Okay, like, so she was she was the one there. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a cheating scandal in the Atlanta public school system.
Mm-hmm.
It was she was the lead prosecutor, 2014 to 2015, and 12 educators were accused of correcting answers, right, entered by students. She prosecuted them under the Georgia RICO Act. So this is someone who has successfully used Georgia's RICO laws for years.
Yeah,
who was absolutely, is on the hard tip for this one. And what's Trump going to do? Attack her? I mean, you see what I'm saying is this is a no-win situation for Trump, because he can't, the more vicious he gets, the more it's going to look like he's attacking a black woman, right? So for a large part of the leftist population, it's just going to make them more enraged. He doesn't have, generally doesn't have competent legal help, as this whole case shows you, right? There's a lot of incompetence in this mess, as you and I talked earlier about a little bit about this case. And I think this is the one that's going to put him in jail for at least a couple of years, right? And this is the one where this is what's going to close out his tenure as someone, in the media, I would assert, is him going to jail for this specific case.
Yeah, I think that's the best likely scenario as well. But I mean, he's just got. I mean, look. I mean, he keeps talking about. It's like they're making me. They're coming after me while I'm running for president. It's like, no, you're running for president while they're coming after you.
Right. Like, yeah. I mean, the way that this would have worked is you shouldn't have gotten into conversations with several people in your. In your, not only your administration, but in your reelection campaign and your lawyers, and then started coordinating, pushing Georgia into your camp so that you could invalidate the 2020 elections. That's the issue here. And, earlier I sent you that picture of the people that were in Coffee County that were the ones that the ones who have been alleged to have broken into the very election machines in Coffee County and these are machines that had been claimed by various Republican operatives as well as Trump himself to be to have been tampered with. And in the end, the only tampering, and it was a very public tampering, it was like I said, the banality of evil is so just present with all of these idiots. And I can't imagine, that the picture I sent you, which has Kathy Latham, right, who was one of the Republican Party fake electors in Georgia, sitting there talking to some IT analysts who are going to go in 4 hours day one, 9 hours day two, and copy all this data from those voting machines, sitting there with Misty Hampton, the county's elections director in Coffee County. And I made the joke, it looks like a Beanie Baby party, not a, it's like And that's what I'm struck with this, the banality
Yeah.
of all, the ridiculousness of all of this. And I will say this, what's great about this particular prosecution is it's going to cook everybody. 19 defendants, 41 charges, isn't it? You're getting cooked. And that's, by the way, that's the right move. This is where I am actually a low pro, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm a low pro Fani Willis fan because I can feel that she's not giving this group of people any amount. She's not holding. She hasn't pulled out the kid gloves whatsoever. She's going after him like she's gone after everybody else, and I kind of like that because this is what you need to protect democracy in the United States: is the dummies that were helping Trump getting absolutely cooked by the legal system. That's the best part.
And I will say with her too. I mean, I also, she's incredibly smart. I think she's also probably in the background thinking, I mean, like this is the perfect career step she needs. I mean, she's been doing all of this amazing work as district attorney there, but like this puts her on the national stage in a way where she can write her own political ticket if she succeeds, right?
Right.
Because then she is the prosecutor. Then she's the prosecutor who got Trump.
Right. You know what's funny is we talked about Depp earlier. Depp's lawyer, who was so good on television, her firm is now a firm.
Yeah.
Same thing. At the very least, in this case, Fani Willis, her actions, the soundness of her legal arguments, all of this is going to be on display for everybody. And I'm starting to think that what you're going to see is a tight, well-run ship, very clean, rolling the fuck over Trump and all of these idiots who helped him, all of the Beanie Baby squad. So it's just like, this don't look good for Trump. I'll tell you that. And you know what? How I know it also doesn't look good for Trump is a lot of the conservative people I talk to are abso-fucking-looking. They're angry. I mean, this was the one where I saw very angry conservative friends of mine. They're just, and I'm like, I'm starting to think that it just looks really bad for you. And that's why you're so angry about it.
Well, and then let's not forget our boy, Rudy Giuliani, who we also read is now broke because he got paid nothing for what he did for Trump. Shocker. Donald Trump stiffed him. Shocker. And now he's broke and has all of these legal fees. And you know what I say to that? Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
America's mayor, my ass.
Is he crazy? Have you heard the details from his sexual harassment case?
Oh yeah.
Again, it's funny today. This is the banality of evil. A podcast today, just the ridiculous, just middling, weirdo shit that he says to this woman. I can't what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? A to Z on everything. Here's my thing. It's so bad that I'm worried that he's gonna take a crazy plea, right? Like he's gonna take a mental illness plea. I mean, because he doesn't look sound. He doesn't sound sound.
Here's the thing: is like I having gone back and watched some old videos, he's always been crazy. Sure. Like even in like the 9/11 times when he was America's mayor, he would say some weird shit sometimes, and you'd be like, "Oh, you're just an odd dude." Yeah. But that has now just gone like astronomical in terms of how crazy he's gotten. And he's going to go to jail. Yeah. He's going to go to jail. Like he's going to jail. There's no doubt in mine or shouldn't be in anybody's mind that he broke the fucking law. Like he's done. Like he's done. And I mean, a lot of these people are going to be done, if not all of them. I mean,
I like how Meadows is like pulling away. Meadows is going to go with the immunity route, I think.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
The executive, all that bullshit. And then I think the other one that I really am angry with is Jeffrey Clark, the guy that was going to be taking over as Attorney General. That guy can fuck himself. The comments he made about that's what the Insurrection Act is for. Hey, you can fuck yourself. And I know this is terrible to say. I hope you have a hard time in prison. How about that? I'll say it that way. You need to go have a hard time in prison. You need to go eat dirt because what you're saying, Like if there's anybody that approaches sort of the evil of Trump in this, it's him. Okay. For me, that he was willing to get up there and be Trump's assassin on this, right?
Yeah.
To use the courts to help this illegal attempt to invalidate the election. It's just Eastman's bad. But Clark is on another level for me. Eastman's already in trouble. He's being disbarred in California as we speak.
And Chris Christie came out this week and said that he didn't think that these indictments were necessary.
He did.
He was coming from a straight up, like, I think, legal position, which was these charges have already been represented in previous charges. So, like, there's really no reason
what previous charges was he talking about?
Like the insurrection charges, like attempt to overthrow the election.
Those are federal,
but I know. But he was saying that shouldn't factor in. He was saying he's already been charged for this. He was like, it shouldn't factor in your decision as an attorney general that we can get him on a state level versus a federal level. He was like, that's not.
No, that's not how it's being factored. And so there it is. So real quick. That's disrespect to Fani Willis, 1. 2, it's disrespect to the state of Georgia as well.
Oh, I don't disagree.
The state of Georgia is allowed to prosecute their own case. It's literally a states' rights conversation as well. So, hey, Chris, I know you're a big states' rights guy. Kiss my ass, all of it. All of my large ass.
No, I this is an area where I don't agree with him on. I mean, look, I guess I understand where he's coming from a very narrow specific place. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it.
If Fani Willis got in a room and said, you know what, we could get him on charges. He can't. If Fani Willis sat down and said that, fine. I'm not saying that she didn't even think that at some point. Fine. But this whole thing is her. If you look at the way she's prosecuting it, this is her way of doing things. And so she is absolutely running the train on Trump. That being said, the concept that he's not going to be able to pardon himself, that's the very last thing that she thought. I would bet. She's like, and you can't get out of it. Maybe. That's how she finalized it in her mind. But I think it's disrespectful to the state of Georgia. It's disrespectful to Fani Willis. It's also, the hilarity of this is it's disrespectful to Kemp. Right? It's disrespectful to Governor Kemp. And that's the reason why the state
Governor Kemp. But let's be clear.
I mean, fuck Kemp. But I'm saying the state of Georgia, especially from the point of view of the Republican Party, what are you just going to shit out Georgia now? Okay? You're going to just give up Georgia as a blue state? It is a reliable purple state. And you want to know what? Almost maybe a good example of what democracy could look like in the United States if we sort of took it down a notch, right? I say that. I know. I say that with Kemp and what was her name? Oh my God, help me, Stacey
Abrams.
Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams, by the way, is one of the people in the Democratic side that engaged in saying that the vote was, she attacked Georgia's voting system long before Trump did. Oh, yeah. And so the Democrats should learn that this is why Stacey Abrams is bad for the party. She's bad for the party because she pioneered this behavior of claiming that votes were being suppressed.
Well, I don't know that she pioneered it. I'm not going to say she pioneered it.
In Georgia, she did.
Yeah. I'm not going to call her I like Stacey Abrams. I think she had some valid concerns and reasons to say what she said, unlike Donald Trump. I think it depends on what information you have at the time you're saying something like that. And I think it is absolutely 100% that voting was suppressed in Georgia.
Well, so voting was suppressed, fine. Those types of arguments are being used on the side of Trump as well, that there was a level of voter suppression. Fine.
That argument isn't getting much traction on the right, though.
I understand.
That argument's not getting traction. Like, we can watch with our eyes and see votes being suppressed in the South.
Look,
like, we can see it in real time.
But that's what I'm trying to say is that is here's the thing. It's not secret. There is an argument that's made by the right in the South, and that argument shows up as a suppression tactic. Okay, fine. I got that. I'm saying that Stacey Abrams never even conceded the election.
No, she did not.
Like, it's like, whatever.
I'm not saying that right, but I'm also not comparing that to what Trump did.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
not going to compare.
Those
are not equivocal.
Here's how it doesn't compare. She didn't go into Coffee County and break into a voting machine. She didn't, she didn't use the power of whatever office she held, which was none, of course. But fine, she didn't do any of that. But to me, you have to look. I'll take Gore versus Bush v. Gore. There's a good argument. And in fact, I'm really sure someone is going to correct me on this maybe, but I don't think so, that ultimately, when they counted all the votes correctly in Florida, Gore won. But Gore, for the good of the country, conceded when he had to concede for the good of the country. And Stacey Abrams should have as well. That's all I'm saying. For the good of Georgia.
I'm not saying she shouldn't have conceded. I don't see them as I don't put them on the same discussion front. But I just don't put them on there.
But to be fair, the fact that Democrats and the left-leaning press in general now has to deal with the fact that it's true that Stacey Abrams didn't concede. It provides mud for the right to throw on this story, and this is why.
Oh, sure, look, but very minimal mud. Like, I'm not hearing a lot about this.
I'll tell you this. Her name is said to me every time I talk to a conservative about this. That's a political person. So the three guys, right, that I talk to that have their heads in politics that are also conservative have all brought her name up, and that's the point. And to be fair, that's probably the reason why I'm bringing it up here. We have to respect the elections in this country, and I'm glad that Fani Willis is going to string these people out and hammer them. Because here's the truth. Now, on the Democratic side, if something happens, she will have no excuse but to do the same thing, and she probably would. I don't think anything like this is going to happen on the Democratic side. And I think that from this point forward, if Democrats are smart, they will use the system as it exists to make it work. Look, let me ask you a question. How have they suppressed votes in Georgia? Let's just say I'm asking the question for a point. How have they suppressed votes in Georgia?
Well, let's see. Everything from gerrymandering to stuff at the polls to archaic Georgia laws that restrict voting to certain members, that affect certain members of POC communities. I mean, there are a lot of ways they restrict votes.
Right. That last part, while I don't disagree with you, they did change a lot of their voting. They allow for a much larger amount of early in-person voting.
I hope you're not trying to make a case that Georgia still isn't suppressing votes, because that is not a winning argument, sir.
I'm trying to make the case that there is a slow but steady progression away from the vote suppression tactics of the South. And it's going to be a long fight to get all of that put to bed. But it's a fight that you're going to have to fight in the open and clearly. And the reason why I asked you is, as an example, one of the things that they talk about is not allowing to put out bottles of water at the polls. Have you heard that in Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but why isn't that rolling off of your tongue as an example? Because that, to me, that would sound like voter suppression, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's not exactly that, by the way. That what's not allowed is you can't talk about politics while giving out water. Turns out you could still give out water. I'm not saying that it isn't bullshit to attack that. And as my final, the game of gerrymandering is absolutely the biggest issue in Georgia when it comes to voter suppression, right? And how the Georgia political machine acts every time we try to fix it, right? Is gerrymandering strictly a Republican problem?
No, it's not strictly a Republican problem.
So why haven't we just stopped gerrymandering as Democrats? I'm not a Democrat, by the way. So when I said we, I'm talking out my ass.
I mean, it's not just a Republican problem, but it is overwhelmingly affecting people in the South, people of color in the South.
Absolutely.
And throughout the South, they are finding themselves disenfranchised at times from voting.
Yeah,
And
gerrymandering is the single most effective form of voter
so
suppression.
I'll just say this. I think where I just disagree with you about Stacey Abrams is I don't look at that as just her refusing to concede an election. I
Okay.
look at that as her actually making a pretty powerful statement. Because if you'll notice, in 2022, she conceded. She conceded when they rematched instantly. I think what
Good.
she was saying is we have systemic problems in this state with people of color being unable to exercise their constitutional right to vote in an election.
Right.
And had they been given that opportunity, which they were not, had they been given that opportunity, these results may be different. And
Well,
so you're right. She didn't
it's
concede
by the way,
in the
yeah,
way
it's
that someone normally comes up and concedes, but she also didn't say the election was rigged. She didn't come out and say that anything was fraudulent. All she
well,
came out and she
yeah.
didn't.
I mean,
All she came,
I heard a lot about Kemp being the Secretary of State, or what is it? Not Secretary of State. He was in charge of the elections when he won. Was
yes.
it? And so I heard a lot about that. A lot from the Stacey Abrams side about how strange that looks and all. I heard a lot about that. Here's my point. Now that state and its election process is being held up by the Democrats as something that is, well, look over here. We could trust these. We could trust it. This is my point. That same state has been made to look bad in the past. I think that now what we need to do is come up with a party neutral conversation about gerrymandering. Because I'll assert to you that
Never,
the
that's
worst
not
part
going to
about
happen.
but the worst part about gerrymandering is when Black Americans are able to vote, and it doesn't matter because the way the votes are being counted in a gerrymandered district. It has been demonstrated in court over and over again how Blacks are disenfranchised in Georgia, right? Because their votes not being counted in a way that allows for their true number to be represented in the results. That right there should be done everywhere. Not only because it empowers Blacks in the South, but because it empowers actual voters everywhere as well, if we were to get rid of gerrymandering. And that's, listen, there are simple math calculations that could be done to determine whether or not a state's gerrymandered or not. Okay? And if they applied those universally across the country, you would remove that version of voter suppression. And it should be removed. Now, in the middle of all of this, and sorry, I didn't mean to go down the voter suppression rabbit hole, you have when people decide to attack the system itself or actually attack the system by breaking into it. I want it to be a little bit more shocking, right? I want it to make a bigger difference because, with gerrymandering, like you said, with voter suppression, how is it that we're supposed to see this as a legitimate vote anyways? With gerrymandering, it is kind of an illegitimate vote because of the gerrymandering. So, and this is going to be the argument.
Oh, well, so you just made Stacey Abrams' argument.
I did make Stacey Abrams' argument, but what I'm trying to tell you is that I did make it, but I'm saying that at the time of the election, right? It could just be that we need to uphold the system itself, and that's what Trump's attacking. That's what Trump attacked. Trump attacked it on the backs of those who had attacked it before.
Well, and that's the
voters.
difference. She didn't attack it. And that's
Okay.
the difference. She didn't attack it. Like, I think she was making a commentary on what was going on there that needed to change, but she didn't attack it. Like, if you listen to her entire speech, like, it's 15 seconds of that speech that is even problematic. It's not the whole, like, didn't go up there, like, full of flame and, she expressed herself. She did not concede the election. She did in 2022. But I think it was a more overwhelming in 2022. It was just more over. I mean, there wasn't as much to question in 2022 if you were Stacey Abrams. She'd already made her point.
Right.
And that said, what she's proven over those two defeats is that she doesn't have a chance on a national stage. If you can't win your home state, so I don't think there's much of a political future that there was a few years ago for Stacey Abrams. But all that is to say, with the whole Trump thing, I think right now, the indictments are one thing, right? He's going to spend the next few months in trial, doing all this thing, not able to focus on his campaign. I'm just wondering what the best message is out there to actually beat Trump. Because if you look at the polls, he's still clobbering everybody else. He's beating Joe Biden in most of them.
Yeah.
Like, what is the message that is actually going to take him down? I think Christie's is the best, which is like, regardless of what you think, is this the type of guy you really want representing the United States of America?
That's
And
a
I think
strong
that
message.
it's a strong message because it's not like, it's coming from a guy who's worked with Trump, who has good things to say about Trump as well as bad things. Like Christie will praise Trump when it's okay to praise him. So it's like, I don't know. I just feel like that message is better if it can reach more people and if he can really hone in on it. I think
Right.
that message is the most effective because it's true, right? Like, regardless of what you think about him as a person, regardless if you like, can't we do better?
Yeah,
As president, can't we do better?
that's what you do. But here, so I would think that you could attack it on the grounds of the overt criminality. But the problem is the Republicans have effectively turned Hunter Biden into a foil on
Yes.
the law and order side of things. So I don't know how to that plus Hillary, right? Like the Hillary shenanigans that they like, which is completely void of substance in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I you have to. I'll say this: you have to admit the Republicans have been able to successfully point out problems on the side of the Democrats for a long time now, and
they're better at it. They're better at it.
Sure, but here's the thing: Obama. I mean, what did they attack Obama on? They attacked him on his tan suit. They attacked it, right? I mean, to be fair, if there's one thing that I'll tell you this: the last several years have shown me what a great President Obama was. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, what a great candidate he was because he wasn't engaging in behavior. If there was something that Obama had done that could be brought out and just torched, right? They would have done it. I mean, the worst thing they hit him on was Reverend Wright in Chicago.
Yeah,
and even that was bullshit because Reverend Wright, the goddamn America video.
Yeah.
In the end, the entire context of that speech, of that sermon, totally makes sense because he was talking about how America had lied to get into wars. There was context there that mattered, that the Republicans were able to successfully. Outside of that, Obama was almost untouchable. And I bring it up because I just kind of pine for that. I pine for the Democratic representative who could become president, who actually was a good leader, was honest, that did that so that the Republicans wouldn't have anything. So then Trump wouldn't be doing so well if we could do that.
Well, let's be clear. So untouchable that we've all seen the video. So untouchable that his challenger, John McCain, defended him in a fucking Republican town hall. Stepped up and said, no, that is not true. He's a good guy. He's a good family guy.
And it's like, that's not true. He's actually an American citizen. His birth certificate's actually real.
Yeah,
that's, I think, what he was responding to. It's just ridiculous.
And they were also trying to like almost call him a terrorist, essentially. And John McCain just jumped in and defended him. And it's like, well, we don't have politicians with that kind of integrity anymore, period. And then secondly, it's just like, he was untouchable to a large degree. And
I was hoping Tim Scott. I was so in hope that he was going to be that guy on the right that you could just be like, good, thank God we got another man of integrity. I actually am pretty surprised at the amount of people that are saying that this prosecution of Trump in Georgia isn't necessary. I hadn't heard that Christie statement. That actually makes me big sad too. I'm like, come on, man. What are you talking about?
Well, look, he's been, in fairness to Christie, I'm not saying I agree with him, but like he has been like every indictment that comes down, he's been very much like, yep, this all makes sense. They've got him on, like, he's been very honest. So I do think it's just him being honest and him coming at it from a like from a prosecutor, from a district attorney standpoint, and saying, had I been in this position, I would not have charged these, which is just a way. It's just a different way that attorneys general work, a different way that district attorneys work, right? Maybe some people would charge it, maybe some people wouldn't. He's just saying he wouldn't do it, that he didn't think that it was a wise move. But then again, he's also not thinking in terms of like a lot of us was like, well, at least we could get him on something that he can't pardon himself out of. Christie was like, we shouldn't consider that in the thing. So, and I don't know that she was either.
By the way, I don't know that I even disagree with that statement. That being said, I don't think that that's why it was charged, right?
I don't either. I don't think so either. I think that's Christie saying what he believes, but also being a Republican, right? But also, I don't think he's being disingenuous. I think he believes they probably shouldn't have brought those charges, but I think he's also found a way, to not be the guy who's championed every indictment.
Right.
Right.
I don't know.
So now he can be the guy who says, wait. No. I called out problems with some of the indictments. So I'm an honest guy. And I believe he is, but I think he's using this as a way to be like, I didn't support all of them. So clearly I'm just, following the legal strategy.
I mean, you might as well, if you're going to go that route, you might as well go after, Alvin Bragg, right? Because those charges are,
sure.
Those are the charges where you're like, dude, what are you doing?
Well, that's the one case that's ridiculous. Like, that's the one that should never have been brought. And most people seem to think that should. And Christie said that too. Christie doesn't think that case should have been brought.
That to me, you're like, whatever. Like, how about this? I don't even think about those charges. I was like,
yeah.
Like, to be fair,
the only good thing about it, frankly, is that it's going to cause Trump to have to spend more time dealing with legal stuff than actually campaigning. That's the best thing about it.
I even wasn't a big fan of the documents case until I found out that there was audio of him doing the crime.
Yeah.
And then you're like, dude, you're an idiot. And I mean, I don't mean he's an idiot for getting caught. I mean, if you listen to what he's doing, he actually is just he's like a boo. He's a moron.
Yeah.
And and by the way that Trump's lawyers are going to try to get him out of all of these is he didn't know he was going under the advice of his lawyers. And so the question is, does Giuliani turn on Trump? And could you imagine if Giuliani had either recordings or someone else in the room when Trump is coordinating this with them? Trump is absolutely going down on multiple charges and will be in jail, honestly, maybe for the rest of his life. At his age. How old's Trump now? 79, is it? 78?
79, something like that.
So by the time the trials are done, he'll be 80. And let's say he goes down for 7 years. I mean, okay. Jesus. Whatever.
Well, that's where we are this week, everybody. That's what's going on in the world. It's a wild time to be alive, everybody. It's a wild time to be paying attention to politics and the American system of democracy, such as it is. It's actually really is exciting in a scary way, right? Because I'm excited to see how the next few months leading up to the election go. It's going to be an interesting time to be alive, regardless of anything else. It could certainly go in a way that we don't want it to go,
right?
Which is terrifying, but it's still exciting. It's still exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm interested in seeing. Honestly, I'm interested in seeing how Biden extracts himself. How Biden extracts himself from the mess of his son, which is still getting dirtier and dirtier. We're not going to go into it right now, but that's becoming more and more of a mess for him. I want to see how that happens. I want to see how the Republicans deal with this mess. That's another thing that's super kind of crazy to me, because imagine he's convicted, he's going to jail, and he's going to be president. You know what he's going to do is he's going to claim executive privilege. He's not going to go to jail. That's what he's going to do.
Oh, well, he'll just pardon himself.
I'm saying even if the Georgia stuff happens, he'll say that he doesn't have to go to jail, and he'll try to establish some reason that he's allowed to stay out.
And then that'll just end up going to the Supreme Court.
Right.
That'll just end up going to the Supreme Court, and then we'll get the true test of the Supreme Court and seeing how they go.
By the way, I make you $1 million bet that they don't rule in his favor.
I would also bet that.
Yeah.
I think they'd be excited to not have to deal with him anymore.
Right.
Like, I really do think, like, they used Trump, they got on the Supreme Court, now they just want to do their jobs.
Yep. Right.
Well, thanks everybody for another Center Clueless week. The Center Clueless podcast is produced by Ryan Verrill. Please visit us at centerclueless.com for more information or find us on the socials at Center Clueless. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and tell your friends to tune in. If you have a question, comment, or criticism, you can email us at centerclueless@gmail.com. So until next time, whether you're left, right, somewhere in the center, or somewhere in the middle of a big RICO indictment, we hope you're a little less clueless, just like us.